Hello there and welcome back to the Indoor Golf Performance Centre here at Howley Hall Golf Club in Leeds. Today we're going to take a look at how your driver settings can impact where the golf ball goes. So I've got my own driver for this, Callaway Paradigm AI Smoke Triple Diamond. I'm going to mess about with the settings on this driver, probably go to the most extreme in terms of highest loft and most draw all the way down and see what effect that has on the numbers here on the TrackMan. I'm also, throughout this video, going to fit myself for the correct setting for my driver. We're going to go through the process that we would do in a custom fitting session, and you can see what difference it makes from just a bog standard setting to where we end up at the end of the video. Okay, so let's go hit some shots on the TrackMan and give you a bit of a baseline. So what I'm going to do to start with is set this just in the standard neutral position. So in these Callaway drivers, we have a dual cog system here where the loft can go up and down by a variety of different numbers. So mine that I have on here is one of the green cogs that Callaway do, so it can go -2 and it can also go +1. So many of you out there will have a cog on your driver that goes +2 up and only -1 down. So this is a slightly different one. But I'll show you exactly what these settings can do. I'll also change the weight positions around in the head as well, and we'll see what difference that makes to the forgiveness and also the spin of this driver. So come along, we've got lots of shots to hit. So let's take a look at that standard neutral setting that we can see here. Okay, so pretty good, to be honest, in terms of the numbers. We can see average just over 302.5 carry, 321 total, very, very good. Two things that jump up at me are the ball speed and the spin, right? So if we look at the spin, 2.7 is maybe a little bit on the high side, and the height as well. So those three numbers. So height, 132 feet is probably a little bit higher than we'd like the ball flight to peak. You know, the spin is obviously causing that. Dynamic loft as well, up at nearly 14 degrees, is maybe a little higher than we want it to be. And launching at 12, not too bad really, but you know, on the face of that, pretty good. And if we look at the dispersion, it's good as well. But I think with a little bit less loft, if we can control that height, we might see the spin come down. We may see the ball speed then go up. And yeah, hopefully a little bit more distance. So I'm going to go radical to start with. I'm going to knock it down 2 degrees, so knock it down as much as possible. So that'll obviously be in that 8.5 degree position. And let's see what that does. So as we can see here, that has made quite a big difference, I think. You know, the carry's gone up 308, nearly 309. The total distance gone up 333.6. So yeah, that's very good as well, because that spin rate has dropped. So we've gone from 2.7 to basically 2.3. Ball speed's jumped up, height has come down, and the efficiency, so the smash factor there has gone up a little bit, ever so slightly. So we're getting more efficiency. Now what you will see though is that the dispersion has suffered ever so slightly, and it's minimal really, but it is a little bit less accurate when we look at this. Now, you know, these are kind of 5 decent strikes and 5 shots, but certainly it did feel quicker off the face, but certainly a little bit more difficult to control. And I think that on the days when I'm not swinging so well, I might struggle to hit fairways with this. So I think we need to find some sort of happy medium between these two settings. And what I'm going to do now is put it to the -1 setting. So knock it down to 9.5 degrees and in that neutral as well. So hopefully we'll find some kind of middle ground between these. Hopefully keep the spin down, keep the ball speed up and keep the distance up, but maybe find a few more fairways. So let's have a bit of a look. Now that we have actually put the loft up from the last setting, only 1 degree, but 9.5 degrees in that -1 neutral setting on the driver, we can see we're actually getting fairly similar numbers to what we were getting with the other setting, the -2. Height-wise, it's actually come down a few feet, which is a bit strange, but it may just be, like I say, the snapshot of the shots that I've hit there. But looking at the carry distance, it's within a yard. If we look at the total distance, it's pretty much the same. The spin is similar. The smash factor's come down a little bit. For some reason, picked up a little bit of club head speed, 1 mile an hour, which is good. But if we look at the dispersion, it's actually a bit tighter. I felt like in this setting, it's 1 degree. It shouldn't make a massive difference, but we can see here that it is going to help me hit more fairways. Just that tiny little bit more loft is helping me keep the ball flight straighter, right? So, I mean, this is as well as I've swung it for a while, to be honest. And if we look at the speeds that we're getting, the distances we're getting, these are kind of top end of my numbers and what I would expect to see. Normally I'm around if I'm swinging it well, kind of a 117 miles an hour club head speed and kind of 175, 176 ball speed is pretty good. I'm kind of a little bit above that today, so nudging towards 120 miles an hour there and 177 ball speed, which is very good for me. 178 pretty much as an average, which again, that is a good day for me. And the numbers here are fantastic. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in a setting that's not going to suit me at all. So I'm going to add some loft, so I'm going to make it 11.5 degrees and put it in the draw setting as well and see exactly what that does to the ball flight. Are we going to lose some yardage? Are we going to gain some because we're going to hit it left and it's going to go a bit further? I don't know. But I think we found the setting that I need for my driver, so that 9.5 neutral is pretty much where I'd have it all the time. And what we may do is mess around with the weighting and see if that makes a difference to the spin. But before we do that, I'm going to loft it up, I'm going to put it in the draw setting and see what that does. So let's see what happens when we get it in that 11.5 degree draw position and see what happens to the ball flight. I mean, it certainly looks a hell of a lot more lofted, particularly compared to where we had it down at that 8.5 degree setting. So let's see what happens. Well, okay, high, I think, and a little bit left. Kind of what we'd expect. The more loft is helping us with that shape, but also the draw bias on the head just shutting the face a little bit too. So I'm going to hit some more and see exactly where these go. So what has that extra loft and draw bias actually done? Well, we can see here when we look at the actual flights, yeah, they are turning over from right to left a little bit more. Now, what that can do sometimes is actually lower the spin. And when we look at the numbers here, I was expecting the spin to be higher than it is, but I think probably the nature of that ball flight is bringing it down a bit. So we can see in terms of the average, we're actually lower than we were in that standard neutral 10.5 position. But like I say, I think some of that is down to the fact that the face is turning over and it's almost, lowering the flight a little bit and taking some of that off. But we can see the average height at 133 feet is pretty much the same as it was when we had it in that 10.5 position as well. But one of the things when we look at the sort of where the ball is landing on average, and this kind of side number that we see on the right hand side there, so we can see on average with this 61, nearly 62 feet left of target on average, which as we can see is significantly more than all the others. So we are hitting it more left. The driver is trying to do that for you, and if you're that player who hits it to the right, that draw setting could be very, very helpful. And certainly the extra loft is kind of counteracting the fact that the face is working over a little bit and lowering the dynamic loft really when we're hitting it. So we can still see though that we're hitting it with the most dynamic loft of any that we've tried, so 14.8 versus the lowest down at 12.1 there. But yeah, it is making it go more left, it is making it draw more, and it doesn't go as far. We can see really in terms of the total distance from our best performer to our sort of worst performer here, we can see in terms of the total distance, we can see 315, nearly 316 yards in that +1D position versus 333, nearly 334 in our best fitted position. So that 9.5, so that -1 neutral position, if you like, and the -2 neutral. So that was pretty good too. So yeah, we're seeing quite a decent amount. So it's 17, 18 yards nearly. Difference between the two, so I mean that's quite significant, isn't it? So basically what this test has shown up is if I've got the wrong setting in my driver, I could be up to 18 yards shorter really. So now we've put that heavy 14 gram weight in the front, and a reminder, we've got it in that preferred setting, so neutral -1, 9.5 degrees now this driver. So moving that weight to the front should in theory knock some spin off. Let's see what that does to the spin numbers when we hit it here. Whilst we've got it in that setting that we know works, right, just changing those weights around makes the driver feel completely different. So throughout the swing, it's weird, like it's a weird sensation. The strike doesn't feel anywhere near as good for one. I know that one's gone pretty straight, and I've hit most of them fairly straight. The spin does look to be a tiny bit lower, but it's not going as far for some reason. But it does not feel anywhere near as good off the face. It doesn't even feel like the same driver, to be honest. I'm really struggling to sort of feel it and time it properly. So let's just hit a couple more. Yeah, so it just feels weird. I don't know. Again, it's all right on the fairway, decent distance, but yeah, it does not feel great. It'd be interesting to see what the numbers are like when we get all of those, but yeah, it certainly doesn't feel like that driver did when we had it just, with the weight at the back there. I guess I've just lost some of the forgiveness, and obviously the MOI has changed a little bit because of the weighting, more weight shoved towards the front of the driver. Felt really good, but just turned over on me a little bit. I mean, the numbers are good, but it just doesn't feel as good as it did before. So let's look at what's happened there. So we can see now that we've got that weight in the front of the driver there, so it should be knocking some spin off. And when we compare it to, the kind of normal setting, if you like, when we had it in the -1 neutral, so 9.5 degrees, we can see in terms of carry, it's actually come down a little bit. Mainly due to speed being a little bit lower, so kind of 117 versus 190, so a couple of miles an hour slower swing speed. Don't know why that is. The driver just didn't feel right for some reason. It just felt completely different to the way it was before. But we can see the spin hasn't really changed. It's pretty negligible what that weight's done. So, you know, we've gone from 2.3, 2.3, 2.9, so it's neither here nor there, but we can see the ball speed's dropped a little bit, but obviously some of that is down to the club head speed change. And in terms of the height, it's pretty much the same as well. So none of that's really changed with moving the weight position around ever so much, to be honest. Which the only kind of noticeable difference I'd say is in the feel, and it just didn't feel as good. It may feel better to you guys, I don't know, when you put that weight in the front, but for me, the forgiveness has just gone out the window. And yeah, we're just not getting the same ball flight, are we? So I think we'll be putting that weight back. We've shown that some of the different weighting positions can work, can make the driver feel a little bit different, and sometimes in a fairly detrimental way, really. It's been good to test this, to be honest, for myself as well, but to show you kind of what these different weight positions will do. Now, I'm probably between that -2 neutral and -1 neutral. I think I'd probably go the -1 neutral because I think that extra little bit of loft just gives me a little bit more forgiveness. I think I might be able to hit a few more fairways with it, and for the sake of, you know, the numbers being negligibly different, I think I can sacrifice a yard or 2 yards to hit 1 or 2 more fairways. So yeah, I mean, that's been a fairly extensive test. I'm pretty tired. I've hit a lot of drivers there, but hopefully that shows you kind of the differences that you can get by changing these settings on your driver. Hopefully you've enjoyed that video. Please drop some comments in below. It'd be great to answer some of your questions, as well as any things you kind of notice about the data here as well, because some of this is fairly subjective when you look at it, and you know, people read different things into this. But when I'm fitting somebody for a driver, there are certain elements I'm always looking at to try and control, and some of these settings really do help us do that. See you soon.